Three, two, one. Pablo Torre. It's a Samson sit down with my favorite. I think Pablo is setting the record for guest appearances on Nothing Personal. With no further ado, let's go. Pablo, are you there?
I think I'm glad to own that record.
It's a
I
pretty good
think.
record. There aren't
I
many
think.
people who we've done repeaters with. And the reason why I like having you on the show is I love the opportunity for the audience to just be a voyeur into our normal conversations, which we don't record, but this one we just are.
Yeah, I hope your audience by now, if they've been listening to us on whether it's Dan's show, we were just in Miami the other week, or the previous versions of this, or the times I have you on my show, which are numerous as well. I hope they get the sense that we talk to each other a truly unsettling amount.
Is it that's a terrible thing to say? Is it unsettling
But
to Liz? Is it unsettling to you? That's your wife. What does it mean? It's not
I,
unsettling.
I think it's unsettling to me to think about how much we
Terrible.
talk. No, look, there's a compliment in there somewhere. You just got to dig a little bit. It's unsettling because I didn't think we'd be doing this often, and yet every time I reflect upon how much we've been talking to each other, I am reminded that it goes by real quick. It's always just again. I have to. You're right. I use pejorative adverbs to mask the love I have for you, David. You got me. I was going to say disturbingly easy to do, and that's I get your point.
I
I get your
need you to
point.
get to the point where it doesn't bother you that much. Where you don't have to. I have this with Levitard too, like going around apologizing to people for having a relationship with me. And I must tell you, it's hurtful and bewildering.
I apologize to no one. I apologize sometimes to Liz because we talk, as aforementioned, a lot. I don't apologize to anybody for it. I mostly find myself a little startled by the number next to your name in my call log. That's all I'm saying.
I want to talk about something that interests me greatly, and it's your show. And I was talking to Coco before we started this, thinking about the number of episodes you do. I think, did you just get over 200? So I want to
Yeah,
properly congratulate you. You
thank you.
found out, you're still finding stuff out. I actually was worried that you wouldn't be able to find this much out. And it turns out that there is no limit. How many show ideas do you get from strangers on the phone number, which you can give again? What is the
Yes.
phone number?
Yes. Great question. 913-85 Pablo, I believe. Is 913 the Cincinnati area code? That is yes, 913-85 Pablo. The Cincinnati area code is 513-513-85
All right,
Pablo. I
let's
just
start.
found out. I just
4869. Let's try this
Great.
again. Pablo, is there a phone number that people can call in order to give you things to find out?
Absolutely, and I know it so accurately. It is 513-85 Pablo. Turns out 913 is Overland Park, Kansas. 513 is Cincinnati. We have a Cincinnati number mostly because it got me to 85 Pablo. I was born in 1985. My name is Pablo. You can connect the dots. Look, man, I wish I got more. So much of my brain is devoted to disproving the very reasonable concern you had at the outset, which was how much and how often you're really going to find stuff out. And I take pride in truly in surprising the listener, our subscribers. When you open an episode, sometimes you'll get a reunion between David Samson and Dan Ugla and Cody Ross, in which they take us inside the room where they had to argue with each other in front of a tribunal of arbitrators about how much they sucked at baseball because David didn't want to pay them and they wanted to be paid more. And this is otherwise known as arbitration in Major League Baseball. You'll get that sometimes. Other times you'll get an episode that's entirely about whether the government invented stuffed crust pizza. We contain multitudes.
How much do you worry about ideas? In other words, how many do you get from the outside, and how much time do you have to devote in order to make sure that you've got a flow of content ready for future episodes?
I will never share my calendar, but my calendar has us stretching now. We're in mid-February, has us stretching into April with ideas that we have in production already. My biggest fear is truly that we will run out. And so the entire thing about like how we launched, you may recall, David, as an early adopter and and skeptic, one might even say,
And
that
advocate.
and advocate and guest and idea provider, generator, truly. You will recall that I launched at the very beginning of football season, which gave me the summer to get things in order. And one of those things in order, or many of those things that I got in order, were ideas well beyond the month that we launched. And so I've been trying to maintain a lead. I'm trying to maintain a lead such that I know, and you are familiar with this this mental dynamic. I just need to know ahead of time some worst case scenarios, some exit strategies, some things that I have to look forward to, so that I know I'm not going to wake up one week and be like, oh my God, we're empty, we're all out. And so yeah, my calendar is a mess of truly mysteries and ideas and guest bookings and conspiracies and all of that.
And the 51385 Pablo, what percentage of shows originate from 51385 Pablo?
Unfortunately, probably 200 episodes, maybe five, maybe
And is
five.
that because people don't have good ideas, or does it have to be an idea that actually interests you, where you listen to the voicemail and you're like, oh, I actually want to find that out?
Yeah, I think one of my talents that I have sort of discovered in the last year and change has been that of an editor. And I mean that in terms of getting into tape and making changes to our show. It's an edited show, but also more broadly in terms of, is this something I want to assign or green light or pursue myself? I say this about Dan all the time. You know, when our friend Dan Lebitard, when he is hosting, he is also executive producing. I have found my own version of that, and so much of it begins, as they say, in politics and the church, it begins at conception. David, it begins when there is an embryo, an egg. You know, again, we teach the controversy here. But I want that, and sometimes they don't make it. But I need more. Is my long way of saying that.
Do you ever go into a show or into the process of finding out, and then you're not happy where it ends, and so you've gone through a process and it doesn't end up making the show?
Yes. I think that's the only way you can truly claim to be an editor, is if you kill some of your darlings, or at the very least put them aside and say, this needs more seasoning. We're missing the thing that makes it worthy of a green light. There are episodes that I've taped that we have not yet run. Oftentimes it's because we've been waiting for the right moment to release it, or because it needs another call, or because I'm waiting. Let's just say, I'll give you just an example. There's an episode that we have taped that I'm incredibly excited about, and we are looking for comment from Nicolas Cage. I'm not going to say more than that. I'm just saying I'm not going to rest until I get a definitive answer from Nicolas Cage.
And you can't reach him? You have no way to get to him?
We are in touch with his representatives, and we're going to have to figure out, are we satisfied with how hard we've tried to get to Nicolas Cage? And so that's just one example. There are other episodes, for instance, that I have started but not finished because I didn't think what I found out was interesting enough, frankly. You're not part of what I'm trying to do is meet the demand for 3 episodes a week, which is a lot in the genre that I do, which is a genre no one else does, because it is a lot to try and churn at this level of preciousness. Less generously, this level of arrogance. We should be able to find
this level of post-production.
Which you and I, I've been trying to explain what is it that we do that people don't see, that requires this number of people, and I'm beginning to describe some of it now. But yeah, look, part of what I want to do is make clear, if you get something from us, it's because we have loved on it and produced as well as we could the hell out of it. Sometimes I think we can fool people, because there are episodes, by the way, to be clear, where you roll in with Cody Ross and Dan Ugla, and we're in and out. I want to get to the point where every episode feels plausibly like it's not edited. For those harder interviews that we do, we need to edit the bleep out of it.
So
and that's
if I guess
the magic.
The Nicolas Cage episode, will you tell me if I'm right?
Yeah.
Are you trying to find out some of the world's strangest collections?
So you are absolutely in the ballpark, but we are so much more specific about what we're trying to get an answer to. But you're absolutely in the ballpark.
So the thing about Nick Cage and getting to him is that the amount of work required and the amount of time, they are inversely correlated. So you are going to spend 100 hours, and what you're trying to get is 60 seconds.
Is a quote. Is an
One
acknowledgement,
little
is
quote.
proof of his awareness of what we're doing. And yes, correct. Like we're at the 1 yard line, but that 1 yard is Nicolas Cage.
Can't you do the tush push?
So unless you happen to be a tush that has some pull with Nicolas Cage, we will push that tush. Yeah, I'm looking for. Look, by the way, it occurs to me also. I was in Miami with you, and I don't know if you want me to say this or not. I'll say it, and you can decide whether or not this should be cut from.
We don't have a
the record.
post-production budget, so there you go.
Very good. Perfect. I was walking with you in Miami after a show one day. We had just taken a walk, and I turned to you and I said, "David, those glasses are working for you. Like I like the glasses." And you said to me, "These are Elton John's glasses." And I feel like you should probably help finish the story.
Yeah, my audience knows this. I like collecting stuff, and I like stuff that I live with, that I use. You've been to my home. I enjoy the memorabilia I have is all personal to me, and I'm a big Elton John fan. And I got them the same day I got my George Michael sunglasses that he used and wore at a concert. And I wear them, and I don't just look at them. It's the same thing. People with World Series rings, I will go to the edge of the globe to understand why people have their World Series rings in a vault. And over 50% of our players and staff keep their rings in a vault. What? Why? So then when
Look,
you die, it goes to the next person?
I think you have it right. I think your worldview on this is right. Now, what is not right is that they're glasses with just glass. There's no prescription, no lens.
Well, how could I wear someone else's prescription?
Well, I'm saying you could ostensibly replace Elton John's former
they wouldn't be his
lenses
glasses.
with yours. Oh wow! I didn't. Your method. You're a method spectacles wearer. You must channel the spirit of Elton John's eyeballs.
I'm a method everything. To me, it's way easier to have methods because then it takes the guesswork out.
But the idea that you just also have a collection of other people's glasses that you wear. I thought that you. By the way, you shaved. Again, we're maybe this is something that's obvious to everybody. I haven't seen you since I was complimenting the look, of which the look kind of felt like Steve Jobs in winter. There was like you were wearing black, you had a beard, you had these like fancy, almost professorial glasses that turned out to be Elton John's, and you had no actual prescription in them, which was again unsettling.
So I haven't gone public with this, but since you're asking, I'm going to tell you. So the reason I shaved, and I'd like to say there was a true reason that was not this, but it is. I have amazingly strange awareness I had as part of an issue I have with OCD is I'm a picker. And so I went through stages of my life where I was just picking at any imperfection on my body, and it would cause horrible it was just a horrible habit to have. And through therapy and I really got better, but it's always in my mind. And so I feel my face all the time for any sort of imperfection. And during the Super Bowl, in the last quarter of the blowout of the Super Bowl, I was touching my cheek and I felt what I assume was a zit or some sort of imperfection. And there was no way that I could just let it roll. So I knew at that moment that I had to shave in order to get to it, see what the issue was, and treat it. And so I immediately, upon the end of the game, shaved. I had no plan to get rid of the beard, but I felt that imperfection, and that was it. I had no choice.
This all makes sense. All of this, by the way, feels very, again, on the nose, on the cheek, on all of the little places that you're pulling. I can relate to this. My mom, a dermatologist, me, a kid who, like you, I think, and this is part of part of the reason why we talk to each other a lot is I think we actually do have variously similar ways of seeing the world. Like imperfections also bother me. I will also just absentmindedly be picking at something to get it out of me, much like I might edit a show to get it to the way that I like. But
But why is it? It's not absent-minded, Pablo. Are you saying you do it without a purpose? That's different than me.
well,
When I pick, it's for a purpose.
I think perpetually I'm running my fingers and my brain over things, trying to make sure that they are to my comfort. Comfort can be resold, hopefully, as editorial sensibility and journalistic standards, but truly I'm talking about comfort. That's my radar for things. And so sometimes I think it's unconscious, even though I think I could defend it. I will also say that sometimes I like to see a pimple popped.
Oh, interesting. I do not.
And so
of my own, I would. I wouldn't watch the show. People watch that pimple popper show.
Okay, hold on. This is interesting. So you, of course, aforementioned picker popper of your own, but not. I'm tempted. I feel perpetually tempted by watching someone else feel the thing that I am chasing.
So I
And you
almost
don't.
broke up with my girlfriend, who you know, and
God
she
bless.
asked me to pop a zit of hers once. And I said, "You can't be serious. Like, of course not." And she said, "This is totally normal, David."
It is.
And I said, "I don't know who you've dealt with in the past, but let me give you a little insight into me. The answer is there is zero chance that I'm going to do this." And it ended up being not an argument, but it was another data point for her as she was exploring getting to know me and how sort of off in her mind I may be on certain things. And to her, it's a landscape of new moments and new things that she discovers. Maybe that's what keeps it fresh.
Yeah, me and Liz, who we're like chimpanzees picking each other's nits sometimes.
So
We're doing that.
gross.
We're eating bugs out of each other's hair, and all of it. I do want to return. Speaking of like playing with things and getting our fingers dirty, I wanted to return to the philosophy that you articulated, which I agree with. Play with your toys. The
How do you
fact
not?
that we keep them in the box as if they're investments, as if they are there to be seen but not enjoyed, is sad to me. There's a whole culture around, and you, again, I see your background, but it goes to not just sports, but comic books and action figures and all this stuff, like literal toys. People will not play with them, even though it would bring them such joy to do it. I think you have it right. If you're going to be a collector of stuff, it's not to return to Nicolas Cage as well. We don't get to put it in a pyramid and take it with us to the afterlife.
I mean, you could, but
I think
who
you
knows
could. It's just that I would say you can get the pyramid, but maybe not the afterlife.
Do you have clothes that you won't wear because you don't want them to be worn? Like you love them so much, like you have a favorite T-shirt from Harvard, but you're like, "Oh, I'm going to keep it, but I'm not going to wear it because then it could get, there could be a hole or a stain." Because I don't do that. I'm against that. If I don't wear a piece of clothing, first of all, I'm of the age where I'm a replacement player now. If you get a new pair of shoes, you give away a pair of shoes. If you get a shirt, you give away a shirt. I used to be in the acquisition phase of my life. Now I'm in the I'm totally carbon neutral in terms of that. But I don't ever, if there's a season that goes by without wearing something, it's gone to Goodwill.
Liz yells at me for hoarding.
You can't be a hoarder, especially in New York City.
I know. No, for that reason. It's unwieldy. I have a shirt that is protected and I don't wear it except for the most special of occasions because it is tattered to the point of, I fear, impossible. It's tattered so much that I fear
what's the occasion? What's the occasion? What is so special that you bring out the tattered shirt?
The shirt I have is a original Les Miserables T-shirt, and it is full of holes. It is. I got it.
The little girl on it.
Yeah, of course. Yes, the little girl, the flag, the whole deal. I got it at Les Miserables when I saw it as a kid. I've had it since I presume to be at latest 1991. And so it's just full of holes. And it was my favorite shirt, and I just don't want to turn it into a rag. I don't want it to not be a shirt, and it's technically only barely a shirt at this point.
You know, at some point it becomes selfish because your daughter's just going to have to throw it away.
So I've thought about what the psychological profile of me would be if you only saw my possessions. And it's not great. It's not, I don't want to be remembered forever the way things are now. You know, I do agree. I've consented to Liz. We have some work to do in terms of getting that pyramid in order. But you seem to live as if that is entirely the point.
So I had my grandfather, his name is Harry. And when he died, he had a lot of stuff. And there was what I could only describe as a rush by grandchildren to grab things in direct correlation to value. And so, is there a watch? Is there some sort of jewelry? Is there a diamond? Like, what do we do? And at the time, I was the second oldest grandchild. I'm now the oldest surviving grandchild. And I grabbed one thing.
By the way, I love posthumous supermarket sweep. Love this game.
It's a thing. So this is what I grabbed.
Oh, I like
this
that.
This is what Harry E. Samson had on his desk. The total market value for this is under the cost of the wood if I would burn it to generate heat to keep me warm for 2.5 minutes. This is what he always had with him, and I keep it with me on my desk. And it was the easiest pick I could make because no one fought me for it. In a world where grandchildren are fighting over what you can get that is monetizable, and I don't want to impugn my siblings and cousins, but
you already have.
You know it's funny. I went after that, and I doubled it up when my dad died.
Oh, I like what show we're doing now.
I had to go to my dad's house, and this is what governs my world. His whole life, he got a ton of awards. He had a ton of recognition. He was an amazingly charitable, interesting man who had a bunch of different careers. And we threw out 99% of the stuff because we went to kids. He had 3 kids at the time, 4 kids at the time. Now it's 3, sadly. And we did a draft. And when something was discovered, it's, hey, does anyone want this? And there were 3 piles. There was garbage, there was goodwill, and then there was claimed. And the majority of stuff was garbage. And it freaked me out because you live your whole life with things that you acquire and your kids don't care because they have their own things.
So what you've held in your hands with your grandfather and your dad are there basically the stand-up nameplates that they would have on their desk. Yes. Your grandfather's was wooden and carved and
this is my dad in 1973. And the reason I like this is right before my parents got divorced. So I like to think in my head that winning the Prime Minister's Israel Bond Conference Award is what caused the divorce of my parents. But of course, I have no idea. But the timing seems right. So it occurs to me that this is not magical thinking. This is actual thinking, that this piece of triangular wood that has a switch on it that clearly don't know why. But after this, my mom and dad said, you know what? We're done here. So I kept this. And that's it.
I've ever since you told me that you buried time capsules underneath Marlins Park, I've had a sense of your longitudinal view on how we should all be remembered and remember the time in which we lived. I would like you to promise me that, and this will not be for many, many years, no doubt, when it's time for the David Samson estate sale, that it's live streamed.
Hold on.
I just
bring up a great point. I just added.
I want to host it.
Oh, Pablo, this is unreal. 2 days ago, I added a legacy contact to my phone. Do you know what that is on Apple?
I do. I also.
Do you have one
of this? I believe I picked. Did I pick Liz? I guess. I don't know.
So let me explain what this is. When you die, no one can get into your phone except the legacy contact. And my legacy contact has very strict instructions. The instructions are very simple. You burn phone, iPad, computer, every photo, everything, every text. It literally, there's a quick bonfire. If you want to put my body in, no, but just all the electronic stuff, I want to be wiped. So I didn't
Tremendous.
know about this legacy contact thing. So I had instructions in my will for somebody to do this, but I was always worried about the time needed from death to the reading of the will to the contacting of the person. I was worried that in that time, it's open season on electronics.
Now,
Worry solved.
do you believe that this is a common approach that people have?
It
Because
has to
right
be. I didn't
now you
invent
sound
legacy
like,
contact.
I just want to warn you that you sound like somebody who is guilty of something that is vast.
No, I'm not. I mean, listen, I'm guilty of the same thing that everyone's guilty of, but I don't feel like litigating. So here's the problem if you don't do this. You can
Proceed.
be me and my sister going through my dad's stuff and finding a pair of ladies' underwear. I don't want to be that guy.
Oh, oh,
And she said, that's
that's
not my
that,
mom's.
that's a good episode of Pablo Finds Out.
It's
It's a pretty
unreal.
good episode.
Like, how do you like? I imagine this all the time. What would it be like for someone when I leave on a trip? I leave my stuff. This would not be surprising to you. Um, it looks as though I'm gone forever. So it's not done in a way where there's a piece of paper on the desk. It's not done. Everything is in place because the assumption, the running assumption I have is I won't be back. I don't know if that's the Jewish part of me or the guilt or the reality or life or
Hmm.
witnessing tragedies, but I don't want my kids or anyone to walk into my space at any time. This is so morbid and say,
No,
"Oh, I didn't know that."
yeah. If Violet were to discover, and let's move beyond morbid and just acknowledge what this is, which is human. This is human. This is
It
this is
is
what it
actually.
is. I think again, the memento mori whole dynamic of reminding yourself that you will die actually increases your enjoyment of life. Another thing that we bond over, I think, is also the gallows humor, which I would say is also just what it means to be human. If Violet were to discover my stuff, she'd be like, wow, dad really thought that he was hiding a ton of weed underneath a scarf. But yeah.
You know, she's going to get old enough where she's going to want to know where that's hidden.
Yeah. If she were a little bit taller, she would know immediately. But unfortunately, she's just beneath the height to see over the cubby with the weed,
You don't have a
with the
step
scarf
stool?
over it. Well, now you've raised a good point. As she embarks on kindergarten, might need to go one cubby up.
You need to get above. You need to know if you're getting just the New York one-step step stool. I have that because I'm short. So I have, and of course this won't surprise you, I have a selection of step stools at different heights because they're different areas where I need to access different things that are beyond my wingspan. So I have the one step, I have a two step, I have a three step, and I have a four step
Wow.
stool ladder that is for the highest compartments in a closet or in a kitchen.
When Kara sees you break out the 4-step, what does she think?
Oh, you're putting something away that we don't use often.
Okay.
And I keep track of where things are, obviously, because the other thing people do that always makes me laugh is they outsmart themselves by putting stuff away and then saying, oh, I don't remember where it is, or worse, they don't remember they have it. So then you end up buying a second cake holder when you use it once a year for a birthday cake. But if you remember where it is, because you don't want to keep it anywhere accessible to short people because you only use it once a year. You keep what you use the most at eye level or below. I don't want to bend down or reach on tippy toes for things that I wear or use the most. And I put the kitchen that way and my clothes that way. And I'm just thinking now, does everyone do that? I assume so, where you measure where things are according to how often you use it.
Absolutely not. Stuff happens and it falls into a natural order that is basically a thumbprint upon our surroundings. And it is
Wow.
what it is. It's a natural equilibrium of mess and memory. I was David. I was, I was playing this game. I forget who I was talking to. Oh, I think I was talking to Mina and Katie, and I was like, "Do you guys think if you were handed a piece of paper that you could draw your living room, like just like 100% accurate? Could you actually recreate your living room?"
Do I have skills to draw? Because I'm not a
No,
good
no, no.
drawer.
It's we could have,
You mean, can I
a
list things in
police.
my living room?
Could you have a piece of paper in front of you and write down where everything is?
I
And of
assume everyone
course,
says yes to that.
the answer is no. Of course, we cannot. We live what the impression we have of our surroundings, of people in our lives, even those we love the most, the rooms we spend the most time in, are of course less intentional than your view. It is so much more haphazard and familiar, but in the way of, like, I say this sometimes. I born and raised in New York City in Manhattan. I'm not good at giving directions, but I can navigate by feel, by memory. So I'm not efficient, but I can get where I need to go. I feel like that's most people's relationship to their house. And if Coca disagrees, Coca can get in the chat and tell me, in terms of the focus group we have of 3. But I believe you are incredibly uncommon when it
Wait,
comes to your
when
precision.
you're hanging stuff on the wall, do you do it according to what you love the most, that you put in the path that you walk the most?
I just do it based on, this feels right.
So it's interesting. The reason I don't do that is that I am strategic about where everything is hung, because I know what I love to live with and what I love to engage with. So I get to walk into the studio every day and I look at Harold Crick's hospital gown, which is Will Ferrell's actual hospital gown from Stranger Than Fiction, and it's hung in a place where I look at it and engage with it every single day. And I know, like a piece of art, when I'm walking down the hallway to my room, I have a piece of art as I enter my room that is my absolute favorite, and people are shocked it's there because the public doesn't get to see it, and it's the nicest thing I have. But the reason it's there is it's for me, and I get to see it every day.
So that all is just smart. Like, I think that if we were to be logical about how we were to organize our lives, we would prioritize the things that give us joy, put them in places that allow us to enjoy it more often. And I think over time, I have gotten to that point, generally speaking, in terms of, like, what do I invest in? Where do I put things? Yes, I have things that I like accessible to me, because I've realized to deprive myself of the things that bring me joy is to defeat the purpose of all of this. But the way that you have a collection that you've strategized, I would not say that strategy is a common word when it comes to just
Where's your
how
shirt?
things come together. What do you mean?
Where's your shirt? Is it on the bottom of a drawer that you never get to look at? Your Les Mis
There's a
shirt that
shirt
you won't
here.
wear?
I got a shirt right here. I'm
No, no,
in
the
a
Les
walk-in
Mis
closet right
shirt.
now. Oh, the Les Mis shirt.
Yes.
It is in a drawer, and it is, like, low to the ground because I don't access it very often, to your point.
So you never get to see it.
No. Oh, well, so actually, I thought about, like, trying to put it like it's an NBA title banner. I thought about trying to hang it and, like, put it in a place of prominence, and I feared that gravity would continue to destroy the shirt. So it's
You
now
can
resting.
frame it.
Yeah, but then I would have to break it out of the frame to actually. So I'm not there yet. I'm not at framing. I'm not at the framing threshold.
So I love where your head's at there. And I have a solution to this, which I do with certain pieces of memorabilia that I want to frame, but I still love to actually touch and engage with. There are shadow boxes that can be opened.
Oh, you have a
So,
trap
like,
door?
Shaq's shoes are in a place where you can open the frame and put on Shaq's shoes, or lift them because they weigh like 20 pounds each. Or I have a guitar from one of my favorite bands
I'm sorry. When are you breaking out Shaquille O'Neal's shoes?
I lost him in the divorce.
Those shoes were made for walking.
I gave them to my son. He has them. Hey, I will abandon you for all of high school, and in return, you can have Shaq's shoes. Imagine why that trade didn't work. That's maybe why the Marlins didn't win more, because I was like, that seems like a very reasonable trade. And it turns out it was not.
I'm currently editing the show that I was describing before with Nicolas Cage in my head, talking to you, and I think I want to pivot to making you talk to Nicolas Cage. I feel like you guys would really get along on some of these topics.
So when he was young, he's Francis Ford Coppola's nephew.
I do.
And his name used to be Nick Coppola. That's his name. And one of his early movies, to me, I've been a fan of Nicolas Cage forever. And Mike Ryan and I talk about this often.
Yes.
The Old Valley Girl was the movie of my childhood. And it's what I wanted. I wanted that relationship. I wanted to be with the cool.
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that movie.
Valley Girl is with Nicolas Cage, and Deborah Foreman stars as the Valley Girl.
Yeah,
and
1983.
It is. I was 15 years old, and it's one of the best movies ever. It was redone with one of the Paul brothers, and I don't think it's the one who fought Tyson. I think it's the other one, Logan Paul, I believe, played the Valley boyfriend of the Valley Girl in the redo of Valley Girl, which was so bad and so offensive. Yeah. But Nicolas Cage made a bunch of great movies when he was young. Birdie, Racing with the Moon. I love him as an actor, and I don't get offended by bulk. I have great respect. While people have contempt for it, I have great respect because every once in a while you'll make a movie like Pig or The Unbearable Lightness. The unbearable weight of lightness.
Unbearable lightness of being. The unbearable weight of massive talent.
The unbearable weight of massive talent.
About a Nicolas Cage super fan.
I think we just mixed like 14 different books.
I think we had a 2-part stroke and eventually got to the title.
Hi, my name is David Samson. So I'm so jealous that you're getting, Meadowlark bookers. I don't think they can be helpful in this regard.
Look, God bless them. Bookers as a category of person are generally there to find celebrities and bring them to you. But typically those are celebrities in like the present tense. They have like stuff that they're promoting. They are in
they're on the circuit.
Cultural. They're on the circuit. That's right. As much as I love Raising Arizona, I don't know if that has necessarily kept Nicolas Cage in touch with the bookers in question. I have weird requests, by the way. Like, so go back to me for a second. Part of the way like the show operates is that you're not gonna find me doing an episode that anyone else is doing, for better and for worse. Like, I'm deliberately zagging away from the search engine optimized circuit of promotion of stuff. And there are good ways to do that, by the way. There are lots of very popular, good, creative executions on, here's a celebrity promoting something. What do you want to do with them? That's awesome. I am very rarely, if ever, doing that. And so, yeah, my requests for the bookers, and I often do it myself because they're just strange, are along the lines of the Nick Cage thing and a number of other ones that I won't spoil.
So do you get turned down? Wait, so are you saying that bookers are effective, but you get turned down once they understand what it is you want from the guest?
No, it just that what I'm asking for help on is typically so weird that we will just do it ourselves. Like it's like what sending a booker down a rabbit hole goose chase it's like that's actually what we do. Like when I say that I book my show, by and large, overwhelmingly, and always would welcome help, of course. But I do that because part of finding out is actually finding a person somewhere. It's kind of part of what I do.
Well, some of your great shows have been that. I draw people's attention to the show you did on transgender, and you went actually to do an interview of a young athlete. But Nicolas Cage, I don't put in that category. He's not. You don't have to find Nicolas Cage. He's very much out there.
Yeah, for what we want to do with him specifically, it's a bit fraught without stepping on this.
Is it a trigger?
It's something
like, you have to convince him that it's not going to be gotcha. It's not going to be anything to embarrass you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have to give him the run of show, basically.
Yeah, he needs to trust that I am here not to betray 60 seconds of his confidence and make him look stupid. Yeah.
Is it a deal breaker if you don't get him? Is the show never going to see the light of day?
No,
Is he that
it
important?
will. It'll just unfortunately be that much less satisfying. And there are a number. I mean, you have been without. Again, I imagine it's frustrating to hear somebody be like, "Look at here are all the things I'm working on," but I'm not telling you any specific details. You have been helpful in trying to get someone for me, and I've requested this person 3 times. They have said no every time. There is a cultural barrier. There is an international dynamic without further belaboring the point. And so it's like, am I just done asking? I've shown up in places where that person is and tried to, there's that. There's just
Wait,
that.
how did that go? Is that, do you lead with it? Hi, I'm Pablo Torre, and I'd like to find something out.
Because he had a representative at this place, and I was there at that place, and we couldn't make it happen. I didn't accost them. I was trying to make it so it felt like a front door, even though it was clearly me stalking that person. I've talked to friends whose kids go to their kids' school. Like this is where I'm like, the bookers aren't doing this for me, and they shouldn't.
The level of desperation that's oozing is amazing. And you have to then decide as the producer, at what point is the effort, both level and time, not providing any sort of payback, and that your resources ought to be spent elsewhere.
That is the tension underlying this enterprise.
How hard is it for you to let go of that, of an idea or of a person? Like, if you can't get Nicolas Cage, what's the deadline? Let me ask you this. What is the deadline for Nicolas Cage after which you proceed or you kill the entire episode?
Yeah, it's not going to get killed because we have 99% of it. It's just that the payoff should be Nicolas Cage's voice. And so we'll give it till the end of March, and then we'll move on with our lives. But look, you know about my shirt, my Les Miserables shirt. You know, I'm keeping stuff. It's not over till it's over. So to me, I'm a bit stubborn in that way. I am a bit stubborn. The worst thing for me, David, one of the most frustrating things is to tape something, is to kill a darling. It's frustrating. It's not easy. I've wasted something. And so, look, there are various economic concepts that can describe what feels increasingly like a sunk cost fallacy, where it's like, I spend this, I got to keep throwing stuff after the stuff I've already. Yes. So I am, when I say I've killed a darling, it's because I'm trying to be rational about that, but I try to avoid it for as long as I can.
So you have great relationships with many directors and editors, and the funny part is that directors, they are a part of killing darlings every day. And then you can get the director's cut, or you can get the unseen footage, or there used to be the concept of DVD extras. What is that called now? What do they do with the extra footage? There's no way to find it now.
Oh no, it unfortunately it's just on social, it's YouTube. This is the bonus content that people click on. This is everywhere. What used to be relegated to what used to be enshrined in a DVD or a Laserdisc Blu-ray now is put out there as like teaser content on the internet.
So I feel as though you could have an entire bunch of shows that are just darlings.
We did. I had for the end of the year episode last year, we didn't do it, and I think we probably should. It was just going to be an episode full of questions that got ignored by representatives and famous people, just like our outgoing without incoming. And we're proud of those, by the way, because you'll see there just the weirdness of it and the hopeful creativity of it. I like.
Why'd you kill that episode?
Because in the end, it's funny you ask, because in the end, I didn't want to declare him dead. I was like, this is so. I'll give you one example, right? So I'll give you this example because in the meantime, enough people have since asked about it that I think it's less original now. But for a long time, Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, obviously, would use the phrase glory hole. He would say glory hole, not as in what you and I are now thinking, but as a term that seemed to indicate something else entirely. and he would pepper his quotes at press conferences with glory hole. And so we've been in extended communication with the Cowboys about getting Jerry to talk to us about what the fuck he's talking about with the word term glory hole. Turns out over time, it's become clearer that this is a term from the world of oil, and that thing, apparently a glory hole, was originally a great thing. That's how Jerry always referred to it. But I wanted to know if Jerry was familiar with the world of holes cut into bathroom stalls that had penises put into them. So that was going to be an episode, or a part of an episode, but no longer.
Jerry Jones, though, he just did some acting in Landman. I think you may be more likely to get him now than you were, because he realizes the whole GM thing is not working out well. And I think he knows that, time is short, and when you're an octogenarian, you tend to have different priorities. I think that you have a better chance of getting Jerry Jones to talk about glory holes than Nicolas Cage to talk about that which you want him to talk about.
Yeah, you might be right. Look, my whole thing with directors also, it's funny, you part of a subgenre of show that I love is actually based around the premise of a darling being killed because the studio didn't want you to release something, or because you had this incredible pitch that went to the finish line but didn't cross, because an actor dropped out. I love the genre of a passion project that never got to see the light of day. We've done a couple episodes like this. We did an episode with Ezra Edelman about about Ezra Edelman's Prince documentary, which has now officially been declared dead by Netflix and the Prince estate. We did an episode with Mike Schur.
Hold on. Yeah, it's made. It's fully in the can. It just doesn't have a distributor currently.
Yeah. So we did an episode fundamentally about that, because I got to see it and have bragged to you about that elsewhere. But just the thing of, you cared about something, you had a vision for it, it was a passion project, and for reasons that were out of your control, or maybe even in your control, but something went wrong, it never got to see the light of day. And part of what I like to do is both, of course, tap into someone's obsessions, what they're actually interested in, as well as bring people something that they've never seen or heard before. And what better Venn diagram than the world of Hollywood, where the graveyard, David, the purgatory of production. There are so many things that would have worked, or sounded like they would have worked, or maybe could, except for one thing. And I love just devoting, part of our
It's a very common thing. Artists, when they die with a ton of things that are posthumously released because they just stayed in the studio. They were never released. Authors have that. Writers have a ton of manuscripts, a ton of articles that just never got published, or for whatever reason. My view of that has always been that I'm okay with admitting we do things. I mean, you and I are in the vanity business, picking notwithstanding, and we do things for other people to enjoy. And we love that other people enjoy it. And I embrace that. I don't try to pretend that I don't want people to listen or to enjoy what we do. And I think it's perfectly fine to admit. A lot of our cohorts do not admit that. And they like to believe they would do this if nobody were listening.
It's interesting. Would you do it if no one was listening?
Well, my first episode, it was just my mother. So the answer is yes. But over the course of time, there are certain things that I like that are private. Some of our conversations are private, but the truth
would have been good podcasts.
I've learned something, Pablo, about us, is that anytime I think that something may be private, it turns out that it's in your brain as content. Dan is very much like that. And so you'd think that as your friend that I would be more guarded, but in fact, it's never governed what I do or say around you.
And I think maybe we started out this episode with a finds out premise. Why did David and I talk to each other so much? And you just, with 50 seconds left, articulated the reason, is that you are so giving of what's going on inside your head in a world in which people are trying to guard that. And also, you did just admit earlier that you want all your phones and computers burned, and so I just got to get in there while I can.
Like I'm the only one. Don't try to make me. This is another specialty you have. Let's make David feel like no one else thinks or does what he thinks or does. And the fact of the matter is, it's way more people than you think.
Look, sometimes, as Kara knows, it truly is 99-1. Other times, though, to further answer the question of why we hang out, sometimes it's 98-2. And
I'm happy that you are.
I'm the other one.
The two. Pablo, thank you. We're out of time already. How did that happen?
I don't know. I got to go lift a scarf.